Bonjour, mes amis. Welcome back to another exciting lesson in French. And if I got a good one for you today. Today I want to talk to you about indefinite articles. Oh, what's an indefinite article? Well, I'm glad you asked. Uh, an article, first of all, is a kind of adjective that introduces a noun. The article's job is to tell the reader or listener if the noun is identifiable. When a noun is introduced by an indefinite article, the reader or listener knows that he cannot identify that specific noun. In English, the indefinite articles are a, an, and some. So it would be like me coming in and just saying to you, I bought a car. And probably one of your first questions would be, what kind of car? Because I used the word a. I bought a car. Well, that doesn't give you any information. It's indefinite. You need more information to be able to tell what car it is. And that's why we call it an indefinite article. A, an, and some. So let's look at how these translate into French. Now, of course, it's going to be a little bit more difficult in French because in French we have to deal with masculine nouns and feminine nouns. And you guessed it, each one of these groups has a different indefinite article. So let's look at that. The masculine singular indefinite article is, whoops, that's not good, un, un, un. It's that nasal sound, of course, and that's how you say a or an. So let me put that down here. A and an. So if I wanted to say a book, I would say un livre, because book is masculine. This is masculine singular. Un livre means a book. All right, let's look at the feminine singular. The feminine singular form is une. So we just add an e to the masculine, and we come up with the feminine indefinite article, une. And just like the masculine, of course, that's going to mean a, an. So say, I want to say a girl. Une fille. Une fille. If I were to come in and say, hey, today I met a girl. Well, of course, one of the first questions would be, who is she? Because I used an indefinite article, you don't have enough information to know exactly which girl I'm talking about. All right. So we've got masculine, we've got feminine, we've got the singular forms. But nouns aren't always singular. They can be plural too. And so how do we say something indefinite in the plural? Well, first of all, there is a plural indefinite article. And in French, that is des. Des. And this means some. So maybe I want to say some books. I read some books. Again, that is an indefinite article because you don't know specifically what books I read. All right? So we would use the word des. Des livres. And notice I added an S onto livre because that's how French forms the plural, just like we do, by adding an S to the singular. Notice, though, you don't hear the S. It's written, but it's not spoken. All right? And if I wanted to say some girls, I'm going to go out and eat lunch with some girls. Of course, you might ask, well, which girls? Because I used an indefinite article, and that would be des filles. All right? Simple enough. Un, une, des. That's why it's so important to learn the genders of the nouns as you learn them, because those genders become very important when you use things like indefinite articles. All right, Let's move on to another topic while we're here and while I've brought it up. I was talking about how you make nouns plural in French. And I said that you add an S just like you do in English, and that's true. And I said that while the S is written, it's not spoken. And that also is true. However, there are some exceptions to forming a plural like this in French, just like we have exceptions in English. What's the plural form of child? We don't say childs, we say children. So we have some of these different kinds of ways to make a plural in English. And so let's look at some of the exceptions in French. One of the exceptions is if the singular noun, the noun ends in AU, EAU, or EU. If that happens, then we're going to form the plural not by adding S, but by adding X. That's right. If it ends in AU, EAU, or EU, that noun is not going to form the plural by adding an S. It's going to form it by adding an X. And we have a wonderful example of that, the word bureau, which means desk, specifically a big kind of desk with drawers, not a little student desk. There's another word for that. But a desk, you see it ends in EAU, so I'm not going to form the plural by adding an S this time. Instead, I'm going to add an X, and we're going to have bureau. So if I wanted to say some desks, I would say des bureaux. Right, you get it? All right, well, that's the first spelling alternative. Let's go on to another one. Okay. If the singular noun ends, let me get that up there. If it ends in AL, we're not going to form the plural by adding an S. We're going to form the plural by adding AUX. And we don't have a word like that in our 1.2 vocabulary, but let me show you a French word that fits this category. Animal. Just like the English word, except it's pronounced French. Animal, animal. But notice it ends in AL, so I'm not going to form the plural by adding an S. No, I'm going to form the plural by adding AUX, and animal becomes animaux in the plural. So if I want to say animals, it's animaux. Okay? Next alternative for a plural. If you've got a singular noun that ends in S, Z, or X, there is no change in the plural. In other words, you leave it alone. Just leave it alone. There's the word for nose in French. The word for nose is nez. Okay, nez ends with a Z. Well, I'm not going to form the plural by adding an S. That would look kind of strange anyway. But because it ends in a Z, I'm going to leave it alone. And it's going to become NEZ in the plural. So I would say dene. That sounds good. All right. So again, if it ends in S, Z, or X, don't change it. Leave it alone. It's going to be the same in the singular and in the plural. But you'll be able to tell the difference because of your article. All right. The next spelling alternative to forming a singular, if you have a singular noun, well, it doesn't really end. A singular noun made up of all initials, there is no change in the plural. Let me give you an example. The word for a CD. In the singular, that's CD. But because this is made up of all initials, there's not going to be any change in the plural, and the plural is just going to be CD. So I would say day, say day, with no S. All right, so now we have two occasions where you just leave it alone. It stays the same for the singular and the plural. And the final alternative for forming a plural. All right, it's a noun, a singular noun of the form noun de noun. You're going to add S to the first noun only. All right, let me show you an example. We have the word for classroom, salle de classe. All right, okay, this is a noun that is made up of the form noun de noun, salle de classe. All right, well, I've got two nouns here. Which one do I make plural? Well, the answer to that is don't make both of them plural. You just make the first one plural. So, in the plural, this would be salle de classe, again with an S on salle. So, I could say des salles de classe. All right, so that covers indefinite articles, a, an, and some, and it also covers how we form plurals in French and some alternative plural forming, if you would. Okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. I told you it would be interesting, and I'll be back soon because if you've got indefinite articles, you know you've got definite articles coming just right behind them. So I'll see you for that lesson later. Au revoir, mes amis. À bientôt.